What's up, guys? This is Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the broader markets. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, what President Trump just said that's very important for the stock market, and what you should be watching for on Tesla stock moving forward as we have a potential bullish setup that could be developing. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below or sign up with my QR code that's right over here. Moomoo is an awesome global brokerage that consists of many exclusive offers. If you sign up and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total, and deposit $5,000, you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. You also qualify for an 8.1% APY in uninvested cash, and the offer ends at the end of July. Anyways, check out my link down below or sign up with my QR code. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, as far as the market is going, I just want to say that we're looking quite strong right now. We saw Tesla sell off a bit yesterday, only to see a full V-shaped recovery. We ended up not losing this critical support, and we started off kind of like pushing a bit. We did dip a little bit with President Trump's announcements, only to see a very, very big bounce after something else that President Trump had said. And it's not just President Trump, there's also a lot of news involving Tesla that helped us bounce. But as far as like SPY and many others go, there was some news about President Trump that caused us to dip, only to see a big bounce again. And SPY is also range bound. As we dip to this support zone between 620 and 618, we bounce and bounce and bounce. And as we hit 627, we like to reject the closer we get to it, as we're still range bound. So Tesla is showing some strength compared to the markets because it's up 3.5%. And simultaneously, we have a very, very nice looking inverse head and shoulders that could lead to more upside if we see this move continue. So I'm going to break down exactly why that is. So let's start off with some big news. Tesla has revealed the Model 3 Plus and also the Model YL in China as the price wars have been heating up. But this is some great news for big families in China, or like the families that may have a lot of different members. This could also be very, very useful for people that are interested in making these purchases. What's very good about this is that the Model 3 Plus sedan is going to have a lot of upgrades. It looks very, very nice. I'm very excited to see what that ends up looking like. And simultaneously, the Model YL is going to be looking at not only 6 seats, but simultaneously it's more spacious and a very awesome SUV for people out there that have bigger families. Families does not just include the families in one household; it could also include like cousins and everyone together who want to go on trips and use these up. Also, Tesla is considered a good quality vehicle in China. So the Model Y is very popular over there. So that's going to be very, very big as well. So I think this is some great news coming out for Tesla. This is part of why the share price is running again. Now, Elon Musk put on his Twitter page, he was once again putting some things about Tesla. And by Twitter, I mean X. He's talking about the Tesla diner. This is what Brandon was talking about, and Elon Musk is reposting this. He's been talking a lot about the Tesla diner being very, very cool, how it's very awesome for people to go to this diner, spend some time there as they charge their Teslas. Very cool stuff, in my opinion. And it's a great concept that Tesla's come up with to once again build more revenue. Very awesome stuff so far. Now, Goldman Sachs is neutral on Tesla, but one thing that's worth mentioning is that the price-peers ratio right over here is starting to climb more. This is climbing higher and higher. Tesla's building some strength for the shorter term. Also, Thursdays do tend to be kind of weak. We're only green about 47% of the time, but Fridays and Mondays tend to be a little bit better. Now, July is historically not the strongest of months. We're only green about 50% of the time, but August and September tend to be a little bit weaker, but then November tends to be much stronger, at least on a historical basis for Tesla. But for now, we're not going to worry too much about that. We're still holding up well, and we're just going to take it one day at a time. So there was good news that came out for Tesla. Not only is Tesla unveiling new models and trying to expand their robotaxi network, but simultaneously, there's news coming out about the latest inflationary numbers. The PPI numbers were also as expected, if not a little bit below expectations, which is very, very good. PPI month over month and core PPI month over month were at 0%. And then year over year, everything showed a slight decrease. This shows us that wholesale prices are flat and going down just a bit, which is a good sign. Now, that's despite the fact that CPI ended up going up a bit. I think that's part of why Tesla sold off alongside the news involving their vice president of sales, kind of like, leaving the company. But then we're seeing a nice bounce and we're holding up very, very well for Tesla stock. So we're looking for a potential inverse head and shoulders right here that could lead to potential upside. And this could help Tesla continue to uptrend for the 330 area as we look more bullish. Also, when you look at the trend, we're trying to make higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and higher low. So we're still holding up very well and outperforming the markets. Now, we did see Tesla in the market dip a little bit today, only to get a big bounce after some big news came out involving President Trump. So what happened? Okay, there was all this news coming out that President Trump was going to fire Jerome Powell. Can he do that? Yes and no. For the most part, no, because in order to do that, he needs a necessary cause, such as Jerome Powell being incompetent or unable to do his job. Although President Trump has said that, it's going to be hard to argue that, in my opinion. However, at the same time, I'm also saying that the answer is no because you can't just, the president can't just fire the chairman of the Fed just because he doesn't like his policies, right? That's the main thing that President Trump does not like about Jerome Powell. So even though this news was coming out, it still caused a lot of fear in the markets, and this was used as an excuse to dump the markets. That's why we saw Tesla dip a little bit and then SPY and the QQQ kind of followed that trend. So if you look at Tesla, we kind of came down right over here, only to see a nice bounce. And then for SPY and others, we'd also kind of like dipped as well. So all this news came out that President Trump was going to fire Jerome Powell and this and that. The market ended up selling off, which caused Tesla to dip a little bit. But then President Trump came out and he said some important things. He said that Jerome Powell is doing a lousy job. The guy is too late. He's too late, Powell. He's very slow and he's not happy with the way he's doing things. But he has no plans to fire him. He has no plans to fire him. He basically said that he has considered it, but he's not going to do it. He also said that as far as Jerome Powell is going, only can he be looked at as committing fraud, then he could see him getting resigned. But other than that, he doesn't really see that happening. And he says he has no plans to get rid of him yet, at least as of right now. He does not want to fire him. And that any news that President Trump is about to fire Jerome Powell is fake news. That's what President Trump said. So that's what he said. He was basically giving us clarity on the whole situation with Jerome Powell. And that's why the market kind of like dumped initially, then saw a big V-shaped recovery. And when the market was showing that V-shaped recovery, Tesla, which dipped a little bit, only saw a big bounce. And now we're continuing to hold above 320, which is a very, very good sign. That could help Tesla bounce as well. We got some good news. So far, so good. That's good so far. A couple more things. We have some news about President Trump's tariffs. President Trump says that he wants to plan a 10% tariff on smaller countries, affecting goods from at least 100 different nations. He's saying he's doing this to build more revenue. And then he also mentioned that he wants to see the US gain more leverage. He also said that he's planning more tariffs on pharmaceuticals and chips. That's going to be very impactful and that it's going to be very, very important. He also mentioned that Brazil is going to be hit with the 50% tariff, but the Brazilian president wants to negotiate a deal to avoid that. President Trump also repeated he wants to threaten 100% tariffs on Russia in the next 50 days unless they get a good deal with Ukraine to end the war. So keep that in mind. That's what's going on. There's also a lot of tension between Israel and Syria right now. So we're going to see what that leads to, at least moving forward. Will this affect crude? So be very, very mindful of that. And then tomorrow, we basically have TSMC announcing earnings alongside Netflix. So we'll see what that leads to. The earnings that came out had ASML kind of not do as well because the growth is uncertain due to the tariffs. Bank of America did well with earnings. So did Goldman Sachs. They did relatively well. The fear and greed index is currently at greed. That's making up the majority of sentiment. So keep that in mind. And finally, the majority of indicators are looking quite good. Tomorrow morning is going to be Thursday. We just have import and export prices, initial jobless claims, and some data from the Philly Fed involving new orders and employment. And that's pretty much it. There's not really a whole lot of data coming out. Much of the data comes out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then after that, the market's just going to run as it does. We have a couple of Fed speakers like Kugler and Cook, but that's pretty much it. So anyways, that's enough about all this, news. There's a lot of stuff that comes out. I understand that, but I just want to focus now on what's happening with the charts. So like I said about Tesla, the first thing I want to do is kind of zoom out and notice something very interesting. The daily time frame is looking very bullish. We look very bullish. As long as we're above 320, we're favoring 325 to 330. We look bullish. SPY is looking bullish on the daily, right? It could be going a bit higher. The QQQ, it has a indecisive candlestick, but it could try to go a bit higher. The Russell looks more bullish. ES, this is actually the daily, so just pay attention to this candlestick right here. It's looking bullish. NQ is looking bullish. The majority of stocks are looking more bullish. That's a good sign for Tesla. Tesla does like to follow the market, and so far, that's one good sign. Secondly, Tesla has a lot of strength compared to the market. The market may be a little slow, but Tesla is looking very, very good with this very nice looking accumulation right over here. This makes me suspect that Tesla is going to be pushing to 225 to 230 very soon, as we may see a temporary bounce. And notice that we're just making this lowest here. We made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, then higher high. That's likely what Tesla is going to be doing. So, with that being said, if you're a big bear on Tesla, if you want to see Tesla dump, you need to see us lose 312. If that fails us, we're looking for 303. If you're a bull, you want to see us break past 325. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt to get closer to 330. My guts tells me we're going to consolidate tomorrow morning, and then we're going to be looking for an attempt for 325. If that breaks, 330 could be next, but I think 325 to 330 is going to be tested, and we'll see if we reject or not off that level. There's a tough resistance near 330, so we'll see if Tesla kind of like rejects there and consolidates, but I do anticipate we're going to try to go a bit higher for 325 to 330 for a little bit more upside, looking at the daily timeframes and judging by the current trend. So I anticipate more upside. I think the bulls have a bigger edge on Tesla, so please keep that in mind. That's what I'm seeing at least so far, looking at the accumulations and such. Also, the weekly time frame. If you look at the weekly, when you really zoom out, the weekly is looking pretty good right now. Last 2 weeks have been bullish. We're looking good. No sign of this stopping. As long as we get a good close, we're looking quite good. So we're favoring upside. As long as Tesla holds 320, we might consolidate in the morning, but the odds do favor us trying to go for 325 to 330, as long as we don't lose any major support. It also depends on the news, but for now, we're looking more bullish. So for now, Tesla does favor the upwards direction. Now for SPY, we're looking a bit more bullish, but keep this in mind. We're also range bound on this, meaning that as we touch this zone right here, 618 to 620, we like to bounce. As we hit 627, we like to reject, and we're just going back and forth between supply and demand. So if we lose 618, it's bearish. We're going to be dumping more. If we break 627, we're looking more bullish. This is looking pretty good. We're in the middle. So my guts tells me that this is going to likely try to go a little bit higher. So I think that there's a good chance that we try to push in the morning, because when you look at what happened to SPY, okay, right here on Monday, we basically saw a nice push in the morning. Then we consolidated. On Tuesday, we pumped in the morning, then dumped. Today in the morning, we pumped, dipped, and then pumped again. So the pattern is typically in the mornings, we like to push higher. There's a good chance we try to push for 625 to 627. If we break 627, it's going to be more bullish. If we lose 618, we're more bearish. My gut tells me we go a little higher for 625 to 627, and then we could slow down as time goes on and consolidate. And I think we get kind of like a flat close like this. That's what I'm anticipating for tomorrow. But look for some upside when we open tomorrow morning. On the QQQ, we're looking more bullish. If we end up losing basically 555, we're looking for a dump back down to 552. As long as we're above 555, we're favoring 558 or above. Once again, when you look at the QQQ, it's looking a bit more bullish because we're still technically in a range, but we're holding support. So as we dip to 550 to 548, we bounce. As we hit 557, we like to reject, and we're just kind of like going back and forth like this. So odds do favor us trying to push. My guts tells me that we're holding up very well. As long as we don't lose any major support at 555, we're favoring an attempt to push back up to about 560 or above. So the QQQ is looking a bit more bullish in my personal opinion. For the IWM Russell 2000, we look more bullish. Now we have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder here. And if we get a rejection, make a lower high, there's always that possibility of a rejection. But we need to see us basically lose 218 to dump lower. If we break 222, we're more bullish. And my gut tells me this is going to try to go a little higher. We may consolidate here, but I do think we might be going for 222 or so. We'll see if 224 breaks to go higher, but we might kind of push here and reject. We'll see about that. But there is still some temporary upside potential on the Russell 2000, looking for an attempt for 222 or above. So I anticipate that's going to be tested in my personal opinion. For others out there, we have ES. ES is looking bullish, nice wick formed right here. As we push to 63.30, we like to reject. And as we hit 62.50, we like to basically bounce. So we're kind of going back and forth. My guts tells me this is favoring an attempt for basically 63.30. And we're going to see if we reject or not. So keep that in mind, as we could be going either way. But I'm favoring 63.30 as a potential target, or at least 63.20. And then we'll see if we reject off that and trade sideways. But I do anticipate some upside. On NQ, we're looking a bit more bullish. We're holding up very, very well. So long as we don't lose 22,950, we're favoring an attempt to go up to 23,150 or so. And we'll see if we reject off that level or not. On Bitcoin, we're looking quite good. There's a possible left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. And if we end up losing 116,000, we're going to be looking for a dip back down. My guts tells me that this might be dipping a bit to about 117,000. We're going to see if we bounce or not off that level. So keep that in mind. But I think that this might dip a little bit to about 117,000 and consolidate, and then we'll see if buyers defend or not. For Tesla, we're looking bullish. Like I said before, nice inverse head and shoulders like pattern. This is also a kind of like white coffee and styled accumulation. Once again, helping us push back up to about 325 or above. Look for consolidation in the morning, then attempt to push as time goes on. Nvidia is looking quite good. Now, if we lose 1.6, now we're looking for a dip to 1.67. We're curling and we're holding up very well. So I think it kind of consolidates and slowly pushes for 172. And if that breaks, we're going a bit higher. So I think Nvidia is holding up well ever since their H20 chips got approved to be sold in China. For Aapl, I think we're going to likely consolidate between 211 and 208 like this, and we'll see if we break higher or lower. But I anticipate some sideways price action until we break in one direction. Netflix is on a downtrend, but keep in mind we have earnings tomorrow. So could we dip? Yes. We could dip for basically 12.25, and we'll see if we break out or down, depending on earnings. But I do anticipate some downside beforehand. MSTR is looking more bullish. We're favoring more upside. Could consolidate before it starts pushing for basically the 460s. For Celsius, we're doing a good job at holding up. We're making lower highs here. It's technically bearish, but it's trying to hold support around 44. Might push for 45.2, and then we'll see if it rejects again. For Supermicro, we look more bullish. If we lose 51.3, we're bearish. But as long as we hold supports, this is favoring an attempt to slowly uptrend for basically 54 plus. For Palantir, we look bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows. As long as we don't lose 148, we're favoring 152.5 as our potential target. Rivian is dipping right here. We're making lower highs again. We need to get back above 12.76 to bounce. If not, we could continue to fall back down to 12. SoFi is on an uptrend. As long as you don't lose 20.9, we're favoring upside for basically 22. AMD is bullish. We could consolidate before it tries to break out. We need to hold above 160. If we do, I'm looking for an attempt for 162. But if we lose 157, we're looking for a bigger dip, but I favor upside at least nonetheless. ARM is looking bullish. As long as we don't lose 149, we're favoring 155 and eventually 157 as our potential targets. So I think we're looking quite good. PayPal is consolidating. We could be pushing for 73.5 to 74, and we'll see if you reject or not. But overall, there's some upside potential. Coinbase is making higher highs and higher lows. If we lose 387, we're looking for a bigger dump, but as long as we hold support, we could be pushing for basically 404 or above. So we're so far, we're doing a good job, in my opinion, at holding up. For Amazon, we could be dipping to 222, and we're going to see if we bounce off this or not. So look for some downside to 222, and we'll see if buyers defend there or not. Hopefully, we bounce off 222 and get back up to 224. On Meta, we're going to be looking to see if 700 holds. If it holds, we're looking for a bounce. So watch us basically consolidate around 700. If that fails us, we're looking for a bigger dip. But as long as that holds, we're looking for a bounce back up to 707. Google is holding up very well. If we lose 182, we're bearish. But if we break 185, we're bullish. My guts tells me we're going to likely consolidate like this and trade sideways before we see some consolidation. Microsoft has resistance at 507 and support at 503. I think we consolidate as well. Not really doing a whole lot, so keep that in mind. DJT looks more bullish. We're favoring 19.2. The VIX got this big rejection off this wick, so it could be dipping to fill this gap around the 16, so keep that in mind. The 10 year is dipping, and so is the dollar. They're both kind of dipping a bit, which is bullish for stocks. But the crude is kind of going up. We're going to have to see what happens with the Middle East news. But for now, that's kind of like affecting things to an extent. It's not really moving too much, though, so I'm not really too worried for now. So nonetheless, Tesla's looking more bullish. We're holding up very, very nicely. And the overall market's going to try to push a little bit higher, in my opinion, looking at the current trend, at least for a temporary push in the morning. Then we'll see if we get kind of like a dip intraday as we continue to trade sideways. So like I said, SPY may push like this and consolidate and trade sideways intraday tomorrow. And then Tesla may follow that trend. I do think it might try to push higher for 325, consolidate, and then maybe try to go for 330 if that breaks. But overall, it's looking very, very bullish, and we're holding up very well. As long as we don't get any major bad news, I think we're looking quite good. So as you guys know, I'm not really a fortune teller. I can't always make promises about what the market will or will not do. We don't always know what's going to happen with SPY and the others because of all the things that come out. We don't always know what's going to happen with President Trump's tariffs or any announcements like that. So that's why you want to be very, very patient and watch your levels just to be safe. So watch the levels I have marked here, and I already talked about the bullish and bearish cases. But keep in mind, for now, at the time I'm recording this, we're looking more bullish, at least nonetheless. So thank you for listening. I wish you all the best moving forward. Please have a good day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. And I'll be back tomorrow before market open for another update. I really appreciate you guys so much for watching these videos, and I'll be back with another update very soon. Until then, Watch your levels very closely, and I'll be back very, very soon. Thank you for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.